Well, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting, the City of Fort Collins business call. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be on for the next hour. We really appreciate you joining us in the very first place. Darin, why don't you start off the call, if you would, please? We're ready for you.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm joined by Mayor Wade Troxell, and you'll hear from him in just a moment, our Larimer County Health Director, Tom Gonzales, and we also have a special guest today, Frances Padilla. She's our District Director for the Small Business Administration. She's graciously offered to join us, and thank you for being with us today, Frances. So we know that this is a very difficult time. I just got off the phone earlier with our Economic Health Director, Josh Burks, and I guess I don't really know how to say other than we recognize how difficult things are right now. We here at the City of Fort Collins and with all of our partners who will be mentioned in a little bit, want to be seen as not only seen, but be a real resource for you. And so the purpose of today's conversation is just to do exactly that, to hear your concerns, to maybe try and answer some of the questions that you may have, but mostly to get informed about what are some of the issues that you're dealing with on an hourly basis as small, medium, and large-sized businesses. We know that it's an incredibly difficult time for our businesses, for our non-for-profit community, and also employees in our community. And I have a unique perspective as well, being a CEO, the city manager of Fort Collins for one of our largest businesses in the community. These issues we're facing as a city as well as a major employer. But I want to recognize it is very different than what you're going through as well. So we know that there are a lot of sacrifices that are occurring right now. We know mostly that there are so many questions and you're not getting answers to those questions. And so I just want to say up front, I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that on behalf of the mayor and city council. I want to acknowledge it on the part of our economic health staff. But I also want you to know that people are working double, triple time to try and get answers, to try and get you in touch with the right folks, and then also to look how we can leverage or maybe even create local opportunities from a resource standpoint that leverage or match what we're seeing from the federal government and the state government. So I hope that the information that we shared today is clear. We want to make sure that in our communications we're consistent. And so with that, I want to start with just acknowledging or saying a couple of resources that are available to you from the City of Fort Collins right now. I would encourage you, if you have not been to fcgov.com/business, do take a look at that. Josh and Sana and Shannon and team are trying to update that site as frequent as possible, at least daily, but oftentimes more than that. There's good resources there, and there's also pointers to other resources that might be useful to you. This pandemic has stretched all of us. I shared in our last town hall, and by the way, this is the second town hall of two that we're doing. If you find that this is informative and helpful, we'll commit to continue communicating however we can, even in this format, if it's something that's useful. But you know what, as a city manager, we're used to dealing with emergencies like fires and floods and snowstorms and things like that. In fact, we have departments that are uniquely developed simply to protect in those storms and to anticipate those. With this pandemic, it's different. We have done scenario planning around pandemic events, but we're learning a lot, and we know that being available and being transparent and being vulnerable is really important. So we'll try and model that in the coming weeks and months and even here today. I do want to say our Economic Health Office is working very closely with Larimer County, the Workforce and Economic Development Office, your Fort Collins Area Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Center, the Larimer County Small Business Center, on and on and on. And I want to express my gratitude and appreciation. Josh, again, in our conversation this morning, shared with me the work that's going on and the deep, genuine commitment to trying to get information and to our businesses and trying to help you succeed. So I want to just acknowledge that work. Many of you know by now that all city facilities remain closed to the public. If you need assistance relating to city, specifically city services, you can call 970-221-6500. We have a great web presence at fcgov.com/coronavirus. You can sign up for a daily message, and I would encourage you to do that. And also, let me know, let the mayor know if you think that there's areas where there are gaps that we can provide additional information, and we will do our best to get that done for you. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Mayor Wade Troxell, and he has some introductory comments. Thank you again, everyone, for being with us today. Mayor?
Thanks, Darin, and good morning, everyone. I'd just like to start off with a statement that I think is we all hold near and dear and true, but, during these times, it may not seem that way, but, in our world, all businesses are essential. And so with that statement, we need to stand up and really support our businesses such that as we get through this period of flattening the curve and social distancing, we can really come out the other side stronger. And that really, to me, speaks that our businesses have to be able to be there and be sustained and then come out strong on the other side. As we talk about physical distancing and cloth covering our mouths and staying in place, which are all critically important right now at this time, where we're saving lives, literally saving lives, we can't forget the livelihoods that really also sustain our community in a way that allows for the great and wonderful place that we live. And so it's really our commitment to help support our economy and the livelihoods, and that is our businesses in Fort Collins. So I hope that you look at the city as your partner going forward for answers, for conversations, for pointers to help everyone and mostly our businesses sustain and get stronger. So thanks for joining us this morning. And I want to echo Darin's sentiments that we are all committed to providing the community and our businesses clear communication through this crisis and into our recovery period. I'd also like to reiterate how important our business community is, including our small business that make up the majority of our business in Fort Collins. Our Economic Health Office and the regional partners like the Fort Collins Area Chamber of Commerce, Larimer County Economic Development Office, and the Larimer Small Business Development Center are all working together to best support you. We know it is important to host separate business town halls because we can't talk about this crisis without talking about the massive impact that it will have on our business community. The city continues to identify business resources and is coordinating with regional partners to field questions during this difficult time. And please keep your neighboring businesses in mind, too, as you make those spending choices and support them however you can, whether it's takeout from the local restaurant, which have been terrific, and taking advantage of curbside pickup and shipping options from local retailers, and continue your subscriptions and purchasing and feeding forward the purchase of gift cards and talking about them on social media. It's inspiring to see our businesses pivot and make the modifications necessary to really stay viable during this pandemic time and to serve our community and find ways to serve the frontline staff, hospital workers, and other critical and essential workers with meals and sentiments of support. I want you to know that the City of Fort Collins leadership and the staff are doing everything they can and to be diligent and reliable and responsive while keeping the community safe and our business impacts at the forefront of our decisions. Fort Collins has always been a wonderful community in which people care about one another, and this situation has only put an exclamation mark on that. So this is no exception at this time. I also want to continue to stress the importance to our residents of practicing the recommended actions of keeping ourselves and others healthy. And Tom Gonzales, our Larimer County Public Health Director, will talk more about this in just a minute. This also includes us being mindful of others when buying groceries or out in the community or supplies. Please do not panic buy or stockpile, because our supply chains are showing that they're robust and they're filling our supplies. I'm grateful to live in this great community, and I encourage all of you to keep supporting one another and doing your part to stop the spread of this disease. And with that, I want to introduce Tom. He's our Larimer County Public Health Director. Tom Gonzales, thanks for being here this morning, and thank you for your partnership. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for having me on. And yes, this is truly a great place to live, work, and play, and the partnerships. That's what makes it great. To our businesses, I appreciate your patience and extreme flexibility during this difficult time. I urge everyone, as the Mayor said, to take these stay-at-home orders seriously. And I sincerely appreciate everyone that has taken the stay-at-home orders seriously, as you are saving lives. You know, this isn't the time to be trying to find loopholes in the stay-home order. This is the time to help protect your community by staying home, by wearing a homemade fabric mask when you're around other people, and by keeping your social distance 6 feet from others. There is good news. Local data indicates many people here in Larimer County are following the social distancing recommendation, and this effort needs to continue. More than half of the Larimer County population has significantly decreased the amount they are traveling within our community. We can lower our case count and hospitalizations in Larimer County by taking these stay-at-home orders seriously to prevent more COVID-19 related deaths. The stay-home order was extended to the 26th of April, and I know that's hard, but we're working on flattening the curve. It's working, and I appreciate everyone that's participating in their efforts. We do, unfortunately, expect to see an increase in COVID-19 related hospitalizations as our cases continue to decrease. At least that's what the predictive models are indicating statewide and locally. We need to minimize the spread to help our hospitals keep available intensive care unit beds and ventilators available for all non-COVID-19 care. We are working closely with our hospitals to help them prepare for the surge. You may have heard the alternate care site at the ranch. That is very, very important, adding over an additional 1,000 beds to our area to be able to take care of COVID-19 patients. It is our time to protect others by taking this seriously. So please stay home, stay safe, and we will get through this. Mayor, thank you, and I'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Tom, and we sure appreciate you being with us today. And today we're really, we have a special guest in Francis Padilla. And Francis is a good friend that comes to Fort Collins regularly, and I've shared a number of small business Saturdays with Francis, being in our community, visiting our small businesses. So Francis is the district director of the Small Business Administration. So Francis, please, do you have a few comments?
Thank you, Mayor, and City Manager Atteberry for having me on. Yes, I want to thank you for being such a great partner and an advocate on behalf of the small employers in Fort Collins and really throughout Larimer County, especially, as you mentioned, in good times and through our trying times. So thank you very much. I love working with your staff, and we're really, really lucky to have a great small business development center located in Fort Collins to assist your local folks. So I'm on today to try to answer as many questions as I can about the SBA resources, of course, as they stand today. As we've all experienced, programs seem to be shape-shifting, sometimes almost daily, to accommodate and even clarify rules. And that's in an effort to try to assist as many small businesses and private nonprofit organizations that are impacted by COVID-19 as possible. So if you give me a second, I'd love to just give you a quick summary of the progress on our incentives thus far. I don't want to get too much into the weeds and details, but I'll be happy to answer as many questions as I can. So first, for small business clients, there's been a lot of communication on the economic injury disaster loans and the economic injury disaster advance program, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program. So before I get into those, I want to give you some information on a couple of things you may not have known about that SBA has already implemented. And we really call it small business debt relief. The first is for those that have SBA disaster loans that were already on the books and they were in good standing. So this could have been due to some other physical disaster or some other economic injury disaster where you were paying as agreed anyway. The SBA administrator made the decision that we would go ahead and automatically defer those payments for that disaster loan for a period of 12 months. There's nothing anybody has to do. It's already done automatically and administratively. You don't have to opt in or ask for it. So if you do have SBA disaster loans, not the most current ones, the economic injury, but prior ones, then we're deferring your payments for a year. The second is something that happened under the CARES Act, and that's called Small Business Debt Relief. So under the CARES Act, if you have a current 7A Community Advantage SBA micro loan or an SBA 504 loan, then you will be relieved of the obligation to pay the principal, interest, and any associated fees that are owed on these loans. Again, they have to be in regular servicing status. That means in good standing for a 6-month period beginning with the first payment due after the end of March. So SBA is making these payments for you on your behalf for 6 months. You don't have to do anything. We've already started to address our lenders and give them the information they need to queue up the information we would need to be able to be making these payments on your behalf for the next 6 months. So that's for 7A, Community Advantage, SBA micro loans, and the SBA portion of the 504 loan. So that's already underway. The next is just some quick updates on economic injury, advance, and disaster loans. So in the beginning, we had a system where everybody in the country was trying to get in to get an economic injury. I'll just call them EIDL loans. We've now come off and put in a new platform that allows a business or a nonprofit to enter their information, opt in for the advance, which is an emergency grant that does not have to be paid back for up to $10,000, and then continue processing with their request for their economic injury disaster loan. So that's a new queue. If you applied before and you want to know where you are in the STEM, the only way to do that right now, since it's a brand new platform, is to call our Disaster Customer Service Center. I'll give the number real quick, 800-659-2955. Or you can email with your loan or your application ID to disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. Again, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. So the next program I'm going to talk about is the Paycheck Protection Program, which was announced jointly by SBA and U.S. Treasury. This is a 100% guaranteed loan that's delivered by our national network of lenders, and the design is to help provide a direct incentive for small businesses to keep or bring employees back on the payroll. So this is for small businesses and private nonprofits with less than 500 employees generally. It could include sole proprietorships, independent contractors, self-employed persons. So the loans that will be made based on your payroll plus some overhead for the next 8 weeks. If you're successful with the loan, the payments will be deferred for 6 months. So you won't even have to start making a payment until 6 months after you get your money. There's no collateral or personal guarantees on these. Neither the government nor lenders will charge small businesses any fees. The loan actually, if you end up repaying some of it, actually has a maturity of 2 years and an interest rate of 1%. Now, I say if you end up paying it because SBA will forgive portions of the loan if employees are kept on the payroll for the 8-week period and you use the majority of the proceeds, which is 75% or more, actually for your payroll and your compensation expenses. Then the loan, that portion of the loan will be fully forgivable if you use it for those purposes. So that's what I have in terms of where we are. We have seen a number, and I'm so grateful for this, a number of Colorado-based lenders really get on board. They have some technical issues at first, but they're on board and they're taking applications and they are processing them as fast as they can. So the next challenge is to close those loans and disperse some of the money and get that money into the hands of the successful applicants. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you very much, Frances. And Frances will be on the line, and we do have some questions coming in. And the first one, Ian, do you want to ask the question or have whoever asked the question ask it, please? You bet, Mayor. Nick, I'm going to bring you live onto the call, but also ask about sales tax, if you would, too, please. Go ahead, Nick. You're on. Yeah, hi. I'm a small business owner in downtown, and
our sales tax is due here in a couple of weeks, and I had called downtown and asked one of the person that answered. He didn't know anything about if there's going to be a deferment on that, and as of right now, we're wondering where that money's going to come from. We had it, but now we don't. So, just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
You bet. Thanks, Nick, and thanks for being on the line. Darin, would you like to address the sales tax question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. I'm not sure why you didn't get the answer that you were looking for. Let me just give people contact numbers, and then I'll try and respond to your specific question. So for people who are listening who have questions about the city's flexibility program around sales and use tax, I would suggest, and I'm going to give you a phone number and a website, I would suggest you contact our sales tax office at 970-221-6780. Also, you can find a lot of information on fcgov.com/sales tax. So, Nick, I'm not sure about the specific circumstances. I will tell you, I know our office, our sales tax office, and I've spoken with our chief financial officer just within the last day about this. We are, for qualified businesses, we are willing to talk about the deferral, the delay, payment structure. One thing that we cannot do is waive the sales and use tax, but we can definitely look at a customized solution that works for you and works for the city as well. So I'd be I know that our chief financial officer is on this call. He's listening. So, Nick, if you want to call that number or even call him directly, I think he can maybe be more specific. But I do want you to know that we are trying to allow deferrals. In fact, in as of the other day, we were talking about at least 60-day deferrals. Tax payments that are currently due on the 20th of April or May 20th would be extended to June 20th. So again, not having the specific context, I'd suggest that listeners contact those numbers. We are demonstrating flexibility, and in fact, if I can find it, we've already had 35 businesses that have submitted applications for these deferrals. So we're open to many more of those. We just need folks to get in touch with us, explain your circumstances, and I do know that Travis has set the expectation that we're going to be trying to solve problems rather than sort of creating barriers for folks. So I hope that helps.
What's that phone number again for sales tax, please?
Yeah, it's 970-221-6780.
Gotcha. What about property taxes? What about property taxes?
Mayor, you've got some information about that?
Yeah, let me address some on the property tax side. So, Larimer County Treasurer's Office has a property tax interest waiver for the first half payments, which may now be made by April 30th, 2020. The second half payment deadline remains right now at June 15, 2020, and full payment deadline remains April 30th, 2020. Treasurer Irene Josie encourages those that are able to pay their property taxes timely, and so that's the latest guidance we have on property tax.
Gotcha. All right, let's take another question. Let's take Christy right now. Christy, welcome to the call. Christy, go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, thank you. My question is for Francis around the PPP program. I was on a call yesterday and a webinar, and we were talking about that program and the possibility of the funds running out. So people said to apply early, but in applying early, they also said that once it is approved, that you have to start using it for payroll right away to have that forgiveness within 10 days. However, most of us are still under the government-mandated shutdown, so our businesses aren't open with work for people to do. So I'm just kind of wondering about that conundrum of needing to apply early but not having the employees to pay to receive the relief.
Hi, Christy.
Francis?
Thank you for the question. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. I'm not quite sure what the conversation was. It's unfortunate I can't have ears on every call, but I think there's a confusion about when the money has to be spent. And in actuality, we're working on guidance right now to our lenders on when they must disclose and at least make a first disbursement. The loan coverage period under the CARES Act is actually for you to be able to pay expenses. You can pay some back expenses, actually, in terms of overhead for anything that happens from February 15th coming forward. And then the expectation is that you would basically expend the money within an 8-week period through June 30th. So I hope that clarifies.
All right. In a dovetail question, where do they go to get that information about the CARES Act?
In terms of the CARES Act or in terms of the Paycheck Protection Program, because this is a joint program with both Treasury and SBA, there are two different agencies that are posting information. Most of the time we're diving. I would say from my perspective, go to the SBA.gov website at first to get the basic information. So if you go to SBA.gov and /disaster, you'll see a splash on the top that says COVID-19 coronavirus. Click on that, and it will populate a page that has all the different programs that are available under SBA right now. And it also gives you hyperlinks to be able to apply and to pull different application forms down.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
I would just add, too, that Fort Collins, along with our partners with Larimer County and so forth, we've created a one-stop shop for it's a good place to start if questions are arising. And that's NOCORecovers.com, NOCO recovers.com. And that's a good place to start to find some available resources as questions come up. And Mike Connell with our Small Business Development Center in Larimer County, he does an excellent job, and many of you already know him. And I should also point out, we have about 100 businesses on this call right now. So thank you all for joining in. Ian?
All right. Our next question came in earlier today. How is the city supporting solopreneurs? I never heard of that word before. Creatives, artists, and freelancers.
Sure. Thank you for that question. And basically, we take great pride in our creative class within Fort Collins, with the music district and a lot of the artists and musicians and so forth. And so that's who we normally speak of, when we talk about solopreneurs, and also the creative class, really making and creating value within our community. And at this time, when we're all physical distanced and staying at home, it's particularly difficult for them. They're finding a lot of different avenues online, and I've witnessed a number of solo concerts and that sort of thing that have been a great delight while staying at home. But I would point to our Economic Health Office, and they regularly communicate with representatives in the creative class and the solopreneurs. We just had our Startup Week and Art Up Week, and this is a very active and a very dynamic group within our community. And so the list of resources for artists and creatives can be found at fcgov.com/business. And this is put together by our Downtown Creative District. Also, our Music District has taken the CARES Act that was passed by Congress, signed by the President, and has broken it down for musicians and creatives specifically. So that's a great resource to see what kind of programs are available for the solopreneurs and our creatives in our community. And I'd also point out that there's an Imagine 2020 Artist Fund that has been created, and it covers all of Colorado, and it has $15 million coming in for our creative class. And I'd also point out the Music District is also raising some funds to help support our solopreneurs and our musicians in our creative class as well. So, it's a great question, and thank you for all those that might think you're even more alone than normal as a solopreneur, but you're not alone, and there's some great resources available to you. Thank you for the question.
All right, we have another question. Let me take Mark right now if we can. Mark, welcome to the call. Mark, go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, hi. I was curious if you know when the state's website will start accepting self-employment submissions from self-employed people.
Francis, do you have an answer on that?
Actually, I was on a call yesterday with the state unemployment office, and they did mention that they're going through coding for not only for gig economy workers, but also for retooling under the new incentives they got under the CARES Act. I think the best thing to do, let me give you everybody a number, actually. From the beginning of this, we set up a business navigation hotline, and that's through our Office of Economic Development and International Trade at the state. But one thing they're doing is helping to navigate questions that kind of cross over into small business and in unemployment. So let me give this to you. This is the Navigator hotline. It's a great place to at least start on the state side. That number is 303-860-5881. Again, 303-860-5881. They are also taking emails. That is OECIT_SB Navigator@state.co.us. And we'll make sure that we get this information to Shannon and to the city so that you have it. I know our small business development centers are very familiar with this process.
Thank you, Francis.
We have another question. It's from Denise, and this is for Francis as well. Denise, welcome to the call. Denise, go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks so much, and thank you, Francis. It's in regards to the paycheck protection. I have heard an economist on the radio talking about how we basically need to pay our employees not to work at this time for the safety of the community and the employees. You had a caller earlier that asked, when do we start paying employees if they can't be at work? And my understanding is the goal is to be paying the employees while they're not working, and I just want to find out about that. And also, I'm curious, in terms of forgiveness of the payroll portion, what does a nonprofit or other business need to make sure they do in terms of keeping employees, and whether it matters if they're full-time or part-time employees? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And I think Francis might have some things to say, as well as Tom, generally. Francis?
Sure, great. Denise, thank you for the question. You're absolutely correct. There is nothing in the CARES Act or in even SBA's interim final rules that say what your employees have to be doing. It says that the intention of this program is to bring on employees or pay employees through this 8-week process. So that's correct. The second part on the loan forgiveness side, you're right. Loan forgiveness is going to be based on you keeping your employee headcount. And so I would say please check in with either the Business Navigator or with the local SBDC to sit down and kind of plan out how you maintain payroll levels and perhaps even the salary amounts. But what they're looking at is they're looking at back at history for a 1-year period prior to the disaster and comparing on an average monthly basis what your average payroll was at that time compared to when we're done at the end when it's time to request the loan forgiveness. So you're right. It's better to get plans up now and kind of figure out, because the loan forgiveness will be reduced if you decrease salaries and wages. Right now we're in interim final rule, so to answer the question about whether it's full-time, part-time, or full-time equivalent, I'm going to have to wait until more guidance is rolled out.
Thank you very much, Francis. And I would just like to reiterate that Navigator hotline number at 303-860-5881. So great resource, and thank you, Francis. Kurt, next question, please.
You bet. Another question that came in earlier today, how do I know if my business is essential?
How about, Tom, do you want to take that one?
Yes, thank you for the question. And as the mayor said, I agree all of our businesses are very, very important and serve a very big purpose here, whether that's providing the needed resources through our community and the economic value. But at this time, we've had to identify what we're saying are those urgent essential businesses and non-essential. And there is a really good list on our website. We've tried to break down the order for everyone. And if there's questions, there is then a way you can email or call. And our website is www.larimer.org. And you can go /health. Click on the COVID red thing right at the top, the banner, and it'll go right into the stay-at-home order. And you can go in there, and there's lots of FAQs regarding essential versus non-essential. But what we've really done is broken it down on 3 categories: essential businesses, essential activities, and then essential infrastructure. So certainly I suggest going there. If you don't get your question answered, please email or call. We do have people standing by in what we're calling a joint information center, and they are working there from 8 to 4:30, and they'll be able to answer your question.
All right. Yeah, I have another question that's related. How can employers who are defined as essential best support their employees with child care obstacles or who are now also homeschooling?
That's a great question, and I'll start off, and Darin, if you would like to add as well. There are a number of resources that are available. The Early Childhood Council and the Larimer County Department of Human Services are the lead in coordinating some of these child care options. And, right now the focus is providing and identifying child care support for those that are on the front lines with healthcare, the healthcare staff, and first responders. And so we're looking for, we're going to get some contact information for you, but spots do exist for general workforce at licensed daycare providers as well. So, Darin, do you have some more information there?
Well, I do. I'll share some contact information in just a minute. I want to acknowledge the issue of child care as well. As a large business ourselves with several thousand employees and then first responders who are having to get out there, we've got a lot of unique challenges. In fact, we have one of our city council members is trying to juggle her role as the board of directors member on the city and city council and her day job and homeschooling and childcare, and she's not alone. But what I've learned from her is, really how challenging that is, and so I want to acknowledge that for our employees as well. This has been a major concern that we've tried to come up with creative ways to address just as an employer as well. But I'll just add to what the mayor said with a couple of contacts here. So I have it. Website would be, and this is a little tricky URL, so bear with me. So it's ecclc.org/COVID-19 resources. So again, I think that probably go to the eclc.org site and you'll find the COVID-19 resources, and there'll be some really good information about that. And then also I have a phone number, and that's 970-377-3388. But again, I think as employers, some of us may think we don't have a role in this space, but certainly as a large employer in Fort Collins and the way that we've tried to build our culture as an organization and total wellness, this is a really important for us, really important issue for us to address, and it's been challenging, but I think you'll find these resources helpful.
Right. Thank you, Darin. And that was the website for the Early Childhood Center of Larimer County, and their phone number again. And I'll just give that phone number again. It's 970-377-3388, and it really speaks to the partnership that's going on out there. And I should just point out that the partnership involves a lot of folks that the Larimer County and the Fort Collins Chamber of Commerce and others that are coming together at this time. Bert?
Thad's next. Thad, welcome to the call. Thad, go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, this is Thad Anderson. I run the Fort Collins Baseball Club, a nonprofit in town. Thanks to the organizers of the call and to all the participants, the contributors, and also for your leadership during this time. We appreciate everything you're doing. My question relates to, we absolutely understand the importance of now, and we're acknowledging and working in accordance with the county orders and the state orders. At the same time, trying to be proactive and optimistic about a return to business. I know what I do and what my staff's involved with. Like a lot of people in the community, we're partnered heavily with the city. We lean on and rely on city staff in a lot of capacities for the programming we provide. So I'm just curious. I'm aware there's a lot of effects to the organization, the city management, and the city structure. As we plan and try to build financial models and contingency programming plans, I guess I'm curious either if you have any input now or our best ways to stay up to speed on what we should, how we're going to know what to expect as we try to return to programming and business, as far as how the city is going to be, what state things are going to be in as far as staff and support systems.
Thank you, Thad. And also, I just want to thank you not only getting back to business, but getting back to baseball. And thanks for what you're doing. And, Darin, would you like to speak to the planning for not only what we're doing now in terms of facilities and staff, but also recovery, and I think Tom might have some comments on that too, as to a realistic expectation, but also ways to start thinking about how we might come out of this. Darin, would you like to talk about city and staff of facilities?
Sure, Mayor. I'd be happy to. First, I need to say, Thad, thanks for the question. Thanks for your leadership. Thanks for your encouraging emails and supportive comments through this as well. You're an amazing supporter, and I'm just thankful for the partnership that we have with your organization. So it's a great question. As I said earlier, city facilities are closed, and they will be closed through the stay-in-place order at least. We are having conversation about what our exit strategy is. So when these stay-in-place orders, go away, I believe there are going to continue to be advice and maybe even directives around, even though the stay-in-place order has been eliminated, physical distancing and reduced workforce. I think we are planning for those likely to stay in place for some period of time. So just when Tom Gonzales turns off the stay in place, or the governor, I think we're going to continue to have challenges from a facility standpoint. That's our current thinking, and that's what we're planning around. Of course, if on the 26th everything goes away and it's back to normal, that's fabulous for our business and your businesses. But I'm not. We're not thinking that way. We're thinking about how to develop contingency plans given further restrictions. I think that right now we have city employees out in the community doing their work, like policing and dispatch and pothole maintenance and garbage cleanup and the city is operating externally, but also in a virtual city way, and I would say all city services remain available. They're just going to be done in a very different way. I think that the city council and I and our executive team have some real challenges ahead. We're planning for various revenue loss scenarios. Forecasting those are difficult. You're doing that as small and medium and large businesses as well. We're looking at a lot of different scenarios. I think it would be misleading to say that there will not be an impact on city services. So I fully expect as we come out of this that city services will be impacted. I do know one thing, Thad, that recreation is so important to this community. And I know that as we're coming into summer schedule, there's a lot of interest in our various partners, you being one, but also people wanting to get out and use playgrounds and facilities and trails and things like that. So I guess long story short, I think that services will be impacted. I believe that there will likely be continued closures for some period of time beyond the stay-in-place order. But if you've got specific questions about how we can sort of leverage the partnership, we're all ears, and I'd be happy to talk to you directly or Mike Calhoun, our Parks Director. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but we're going to open for business as quickly as we can and do it in a responsible way that doesn't make people sicker.
Yeah, thanks, Darin. And I'd like to just go to Tom just for a kind of a brief kind of expectation. So we currently have our stay-in-place order, and we'll follow that through, and that could be extended. But also, we need to get more testing in place and other things such that when we come out of this thing, how do we begin to isolate and still be doing physical distancing and things like that? Tom, could you just characterize a little bit of those kinds of things that need to be in place in order to come out into more of a recovery phase?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your question. Youth sports is near and dear with me as being a youth basketball coach through the city, and it's hard. Well, I want to get those kids back together and practicing, and we love our baseball and all the other sports that we have for our youth. So we do have a team put together of bright minds right at the School of Public Health and Environmental Health at Colorado State University, working with the state and their modeling. And these are predictive models. And, of course, any modeling, there are assumptions to those. But what we're hopeful is that we can release the stay-at-home on the 26th. And by watching the models, and there's a lot that's played into it. Mainly, it's hospitalizations. We're making sure that we don't increase that surge where we have no hospital beds, and then we don't have the ventilators to do day-to-day non-COVID medical emergencies. So what we're looking at is we believe we've stabilized at least our hospitalizations, and that's just fantastic news. So if we could on the 27th, per se, remove that stay of order, we'd still have to step down our restrictions. We couldn't all at once go back to normal activity because then we would have another big surge that would put us all back at stay at home. So we're going to have to go down these stairs pretty slowly. I think the first one would be back to nothing larger than 10. We would monitor that, see how our hospitalization's doing, seeing how the virus is behaving. And boy, it'd be great to get down to the 50. And then we could maybe get some sports teams back together in some businesses that are, at least within the 50, see how things go there, and slowly step down, I think, is what we're going to be doing. I'd love to be able to give dates and predictive dates, but that hopefully we'll be able to do that here in the next couple of weeks by learning where we're at with the hospitalizations. So it's a step-down approach. What we're really doing, as Mayor said, is buying time. Lots of bright minds are working on plasma therapy, where we're able to take the plasma of folks that have had the virus and now have antibodies. We're able to treat those that are very, very ill. And so far, the work's looking promising. There's 3 hospitals that I know of that are doing this work, and one of them's right here in Denver at the Children's Hospital. So I think that's exciting news. There's frantic work on a vaccine. If we had a vaccine, we could easily get 40% herd immunity by just putting together our points of distribution and start vaccinating everybody. We're good at that at Public Health, and we've got plans to do that, but we don't have that vaccine. So I'm hopeful we can get that vaccine as soon as possible. Because think about it, in 2008 when we had H1N1, if we didn't have a vaccine, we'd have been all staying at home for that virus, but we had a vaccine. So it was much, much different outcomes. So I'm hopeful those things all come together. And then another thing is testing. If we knew rapidly who is or isn't positive, who has antibodies and who doesn't, we could really start making some quicker decisions and freeing up some of these restrictions. So I'm excited to hear federally that there is a move to really look at widespread testing and antibody testing. So I think that all plays into it. But I think Darin Atteberry is very correct that we'll have to take step-down approaches. But if we can get widespread testing, perhaps the plasma therapy, and if we can get a vaccine here in the next several months, that could change everything in a very, very positive time frame.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for all you're doing. I think you give me a lot of confidence that, we're doing what we can do at this time, but also we're really planning for the future such that we can return to some level of normalcy and hopefully baseball during baseball season. So thank you, Tom. And with that, Kurt, is there another question?
Hello. My question is for Francis. The company that I work for has been looking at ways to refinance existing debt so that we can spread out, payments over a longer period of time. So with revenue down, we're just looking for ways to reduce payments. And know that the SBA 7A loan has that as one of the purposes. However, we don't have that loan right now and haven't been able to find out whether or not those loans would be made available again in the future.
Hi, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry I didn't catch your name.
Go ahead, Francis.
Sure. So in terms of the regular 7A loan program, all of our regular SBA guaranteed programs still exist. They didn't go away under the CARES Act. So I know the trick is to find a lender who would be willing to go ahead and do a refinancing under a regular 7A loan right now. I think the biggest thing that the business would need to prove is an ability to repay. And I know that's a little bit difficult in this time, but all of our programs are still standing.
Thanks, Francis. So, Kurt, is there another question or?
No, Mr. Mayor, what we're going to do now is we're going to have you ask everybody for final comment. Just ask by name who you want to start with, and then you bring us to the finish line if you wouldn't mind with your final thoughts. Go ahead, please. You
bet. Darin, would you like to start off?
I'd be happy to, Mayor. And again, thank you for everyone, and thank you for Francis and Tom and Mayor for your leadership in this space. We're grateful for the partnerships. I guess in closing, I want to just reiterate how appreciative we are for the business community that we have. I mean, you really make Fort Collins who we are. I want to say that we do hear you. We are trying to align resources to where your greatest needs are. And we know that there's a lot of frustration about lack of answers, in particular lack of answers around availability of resources and just getting clarity. And so with that as the backdrop, I want to just say I think this site, nocorecovers.com, the mayor's mentioned it once or two times earlier, nocorecovers.com, that site, which is a collaboration amongst many entities in northern Colorado and Fort Collins and Larimer County, is really intended to be a regional one-stop shop for businesses, so that you're not chasing your tails around in a lot of different places, but that you can go to one site and get answers. We're seeing it as it was initiated, designed, and built to be a one-stop shop, so you don't have to go everywhere. I will tell you that's an electronic portal at this point. I think it started up, either this morning or last night. And know that within a week or so, it'll also be a call center. And I don't mean to be flip about, hey, that's coming in a week. It takes a major effort to stand up a business call center where it's a one-stop sort of concept. So I'm really proud of that. I think it will be very helpful. But again, thank you for the way in which you've been leading in this community and communicating with community leaders. You've been civil, you've been decent about it, and I know that and on behalf of my colleagues, we know that there is a lot of frustration out there, and so we're trying to respond to that. So, Mayor, thanks for giving me a chance to share those thoughts.
Thank you, Darin, and I just want to thank everyone for being on the call this morning. We had over 100 businesses and for staying with us. But as I mentioned, starting off, this is truly a partnership, and we want to come out stronger together at the end of this. With that, we are in this unprecedented times, and I talked about we are physically distancing to break the virus transmission and to save lives. But we're also talking about livelihoods, and these are our businesses, and this is our economy that really needs to sustain this difficult time. So I'm so proud of our business community and being creative and innovative, but those that aren't open, there are many things in place to help to sustain this time. So we're here to work with you, and proud of our community, how it's coming together in so many ways and in helping for solutions. But also why we're staying apart, which is that dichotomy is not lost on anyone. And as we are staying in up to date, please always go to fcgov/business, and you can sign up for the newsletter there or at fcgov.com/coronavirus. That's a good resource there. I just want to thank Tom Gonzales for the excellent job he's doing as a Larimer County Public Health Director, and Francis Padilla for the work that you're doing. Francis, thank you for our great partnership and working together as our SBA District Director, and Francis oversees our Larimer County Small Business Development Center and so forth. So there's great resources available to all of you. So I'm so appreciative of the collaboration approach and the partnership that we're taking and working with our businesses. And then let's continue these conversations, and let's continue to get stronger as we work through the coronavirus and come to a point of recovery such that our community is only stronger on the other side. So thank you all for joining us.